Hello everyone. Let me first introduce you to ICSE biology syllabus. If you just go through the contents of your book, you'll see that your biology syllabus has been divided into 6 units. That is Unit 1 that is basic biology, Unit 2 plant physiology, Unit 3 human anatomy and physiology, Unit 4 human evolution, Unit 5 population, and Unit 6 that's pollution. Among these 6 units, Unit 3 that is human anatomy and physiology is not something new to you. You have been studying the different organ system related to your body in your junior classes too. So I'll be starting with this particular unit, that is Unit 3 human anatomy and physiology, and under that particular unit I'll be starting with circulatory system. So first let us have an idea about what is circulatory system. You can refer to circulatory system also as a transport system of our body. As we all know that human beings are multicellular complex organism. So just like your lower organisms, diffusion or osmosis is not going to help in transportation of oxygen and nutrients throughout our body. So we have an organ system called as circulatory system, which helps in transportation of nutrients and oxygen throughout our body, and it also helps in removal of waste product from different regions of our body. Our human body has different types of circulating fluids, depending upon which your circulatory system can be categorized into two types, that is blood circulatory system and your lymphatic system. Basically for ICSE we will be dealing in detail with blood circulatory system. Before moving on with blood circulatory system, first let us have an idea about why do we need a transport system in our body and different types of body fluids. First we'll be dealing with the need for transport system inside the body. So basically your need for transport inside the body can be summarized into 2 points. Number 1 is for distribution of food, oxygen and hormones throughout the body. Number 2, removal of waste product. First let us number 1, that is distribution of the food. As we all know that digestive system helps in conversion of complex food substances into a simpler ones. For example, it helps in conversion of carbohydrates into glucose, your proteins into amino acid, your fats into fatty acid and glycerol. So these simpler forms has to be transported to each and every cell of our body. So here circulating fluid such as blood helps in transportation of these nutrients to different cells of our body. Number 2 is transportation of oxygen. As we all know that oxygen is required by our body in order to carry out respiration which helps in generation of energy. So this oxygen is transported to each and every cell of our body through blood. Number 3, we all know about chemical messenger, which is also called hormones. Hormones which are secreted by your endocrine glands. So these hormones has to reach the target organs. So these hormones are also carried throughout the body by a circulating blood. So now coming to the next point, that is removal of the waste product. As we all know that all body needs nutrients and oxygen as well as energy for performing cellular activities. But while carrying out these cellular activities, different waste products such as carbon dioxide, ammonia, urea, all these are released. So it has to be removed from our body. So second point is removal of waste product. As we all know that while performing cellular activities, different toxic substances such as carbon dioxide, ammonia, urea are released, which has to be removed immediately from our body, or else it will have a lethal effect on our body. So circulatory system also helps in removal of these waste products from our body. Okay, so as we have already understood what is circulatory system, why do our body need a circulatory system, so next we will be moving forward with the main topic of this particular chapter, that is blood circulatory system. When you say blood circulatory system, your blood circulatory system comprises of three components. Those are blood, your blood vessels, and your heart. First, let us have an idea about blood. So first, let us define what is blood. Blood is a bright red colored fluid flowing through the heart and the blood vessels. Now, as we all know, the bright red color of the blood is because of the presence of a pigment called hemoglobin. The hemoglobin, which also helps in transportation of the oxygen throughout the body, about which we'll be going in detail later on. So next we'll be discussing about the functions of blood. Functions of blood can be directly related with the functions of a circulatory system, which we have discussed earlier. So your function of blood can be categorized into two headings, broad headings. Number one is for transportation and number two is for protection. Number one, that is transportation. So what all things does it transport? So as we all discussed earlier, it helps in transportation of the digested food. Digestive system, which helps in breaking down of the complex substances into simpler substances. So blood helps in transportation of these simpler substances to different cells of our body. It transports substances such as glucose, amino acids, vitamins, minerals, salts, etc. So next function is the transportation of the oxygen. As we all know that oxygen is required by our body in order to carry out respiration. While going through the definition of the blood, we discussed that blood is a red color fluid. So that bright color, red color, is because of the presence of a hemoglobin. So this oxygen combines with the hemoglobin, which is present in the red blood cells, and forms an unstable compound called oxyhemoglobin. And on reaching the target tissues or target cells, this oxyhemoglobin breaks and then releases oxygen to that particular tissue. So this is how blood also helps in transportation of oxygen to different cells of our body. So next function is transportation of excretory product. As discussed earlier, because of different cellular activities within our body, different toxic substances such as carbon dioxide and nitrogenous waste such as ammonia or urea are produced within our body. So blood also helps in taking these toxic products to the target organs so that it can be released out of our body. For example, blood also helps in taking carbon dioxide from different tissues to the lungs so that through lungs it can be eliminated out of our body. Similarly, nitrogenous waste produced in different tissues and cells are then taken to the liver and from liver to the kidney, through which it is eliminated out of our body. So next function is distribution of hormones. Hormones, which are also referred to as chemical messenger secreted by the endocrine glands. So this chemical messenger has to reach to the target site, which are bit far from where they are secreted. So these hormones are also transported to those target site with the help of blood. Next function of blood is distribution of heat. So during respiration, one of the byproduct produces even heat. So blood also helps in absorption of the heat which is produced during respiration, and it also helps in taking this or spreading this heat to the skin and lungs so that it can be released out into the air. That's how blood helps in distribution or regulation of temperature within our body. So next function of a blood that we are going to discuss is protection. As we all know about a component, one of the major component of a blood called white blood cell, which is also referred to as the soldiers of our body, because it protects our body against any harmful foreign materials. Number 2, by chance while playing, if you get any cut, blood starts oozing out. But after a while, even without applying any sort of medicine, you will see that the blood, it stops bleeding on its own. That is because blood forms a clot which prevents the further bleeding and also prevents the entry of any kind of harmful germs into your body. Blood also consists of different kind of substances called antitoxins, antibodies, which helps in dealing with the foreign germs that's entering our body. Next topic is composition of blood. Your blood consists of fluid portion and a cellular portion. The fluid portion is referred to as a plasma, which constitute about 55 to 60% of the blood, and another that's cellular elements, which consist of red blood cell, white blood cell and platelets. It comprises about 40 to 45% of blood. First, let us discuss about the liquid portion of the blood, that is plasma. Color, the plasma is light yellow colored. If you go to the chemical nature of the plasma, it is alkaline liquid. Composition of the plasma mainly consists 90 to 92% of plasma is water, 7 to 8% is your protein, and you have inorganic salt. 1% comprises of inorganic salts. Now when you say inorganic salt, it includes sodium chloride, sodium bicarbonate. Plasma has one important protein called fibrinogen, which helps in clotting of the blood. So plasma without fibrinogen is given another term that is called serum. Next, let us discuss about the cellular elements. Your cellular elements can be categorized into 3 types. Those are red blood cells, white blood cell and blood platelets. First, let us discuss about red blood cell. Red blood cell is also referred to as erythrocytes. Structure of red blood cell, they are biconcave disc-like structure. If you all have eaten Choco Kellogg's, the way it appears, the red blood cells also are similar in shape. That means they are biconcave disc-like structure. And since they are very small in size, this red blood cell can pass through the thin capillaries too. Red blood cells, as they mature, they lose different cell organelles such as nucleus, mitochondria and endoplasmic reticulum. But the loss of this cell organelles makes red blood cell more efficient. Loss of nucleus makes the red blood cell biconcave, because of which more and more amount of oxygen can be absorbed. Next, the loss of mitochondria means red blood cell will not be utilizing oxygen for carrying out the respiration process. That means whatever the oxygen has been absorbed by the blood has to be transported to different cells. That means it does not require any oxygen for its own use, because there is no mitochondria. No mitochondria means no respiration process taking place. Red blood cell consists of respiratory pigment called hemoglobin, which gives red color to the blood. Hemoglobin is formed of an iron containing part called hemin and a protein called globin. This hemoglobin helps in transportation of the oxygen throughout the body, because this hemoglobin has an ability to readily combine with the oxygen, and when it combines with the oxygen it forms an unstable compound called oxyhemoglobin, which helps readily gives up the oxygen to whichever tissue requires it. We are generally suggested to never stay inside a small room where there is a burning furnaces and there is no ventilation. That is because this hemoglobin has more affinity, that means it loves carbon monoxide much more than that of oxygen. So if it gets a choice between carbon monoxide and the oxygen, then it's obviously going to choose carbon monoxide. That means it's going to transport carbon monoxide throughout our body, and carbon monoxide are toxic substances which are not good for our body, so it might even lead to death. So we are generally suggested to not stay inside a room where there is no proper ventilation and there is a smoke or burning furnaces inside. Next, we will be discussing about white blood cells, also referred to as leukocytes. Structure of white blood cell: they are referred to as amoeboid, that means amoeba-like. You all have seen the structure of amoeba. It's irregular shape, that means it can take any shape. As we know that white blood cells are soldiers of our body, so wherever it is required, it need to reach to that particular site. So because of this but irregular shape, that means they can take any kind of shape, it aids an advantage to white blood cell. Given below is the table of different types of white blood cell which you can go through. We'll be discussing about the function of leukocytes. Function of leukocyte can be categorized into three headings. That number one is phagocytosis. Now what do you mean by phagocytosis? One of the type of white blood cell, also referred to as neutrophils, what they do is, whenever any foreign particle enters our body, they just engulfs it and then destroys it. So if in our blood the blood count, white blood cell count rises to above 50,000 per meter per cubic millimeter, that means there is certain infection in our body. So next function of leukocyte is inflammation. Inflammation generally is referred to the swelling or redness occurring in certain region of our body. Now when does this swelling or redness occur? So if any foreign particles enters our body, then white blood cells such as monocytes and neutrophils reaches to that particular region and then tries to destroy that particular foreign material, resulting into swelling or redness and also into the formation of the pus. Pus is a swelled region which consists of dead white blood cell along with the tissues being destroyed by the bacteria. It's a fluid filled swelling. Formation of antibodies. White blood cells such as lymphocytes helps in formation of antibodies. Antibodies are proteinaceous chemical substances which act against antigens. With reference to this, let us discuss how vaccination works. Vaccine, which we all know, are the weakened germs That means these germs, when introduced into our body, they do not have any ability of causing any disease, but they have an ability to initiate the production of antibodies in a less amount, so that next time when our body encounters the same kind of germs, it knows what to do and take a rapid action towards that particular germ, so that we do not suffer from that particular disease. So white blood cells helps in production of those antibodies. Next cellular element is blood platelets. The main function of blood platelets is to carry out the clotting of the blood. We will be discussing about the process of clotting of blood in our next class. Thank you.